Rainbow Six Siege is a game unlike any other. Words like dynamic, tactical, and cooperative could be used to describe this titan, but because Siege is all of those things and more, descriptions will usually fall short of portraying this game's true appeal and quality. And once Siege has got you, it's got you for good. Because it gives you the tools to have fun. Because it rewards you for learning its mechanics, and you can win big. And because the losses are heartbreaking, but never the end of your growth as a player. Naturally, however, Siege isn't perfect, and I think it's more than fair to say that many of us have a love-hate relationship with the game. Even putting aside all of the strange technical issues we play whack-a-mole season to season with, I believe that Siege has fundamental flaws in its execution and presentation of mechanics that do damage to the game in the long run, and today I'd like to highlight them because I genuinely believe that one day, Siege will be the biggest first-person shooter in the world. I'd like to start with a conversation about casual, a mode generally regarded as a joke, and for good reason. Casual has a different set of rules from Siege's competitive mode, ranked, and as such lends itself to a comical abuse of mechanics and ridiculously backward situations which the player has little to no control over. There will always be problems with a mode that is inherently at odds with the way a game is meant to be played, but casual readily introduces and promotes exploitation and bad play, which is not only annoying to a more experienced player, but more importantly, detrimental to the learning process of a new one. Let's talk about spawns. In casual, you don't get to choose where you spawn as an attacker, nor do you get to see where you're going to spawn unless you get all of your drones destroyed in the preparation phase. This makes no sense whatsoever. Drone preservation is a game of its own because of how vital information is in Siege. They are tools in our arsenal that help us gauge situations and act accordingly. The idea that you can only see where you spawn by getting them all destroyed is so counterproductive to how the game is meant to be played that I can't help but wonder if this screen only exists to show something after all the drones get destroyed. Now, why are spawns so important? Spawns should have as much thought put behind them as a push or a clear. If I want to attack small garage on chalet, I will not spawn campfire unless part of my push involves clearing big garage. Rotating from campfire to small garage will take ages, and I put myself in danger of getting killed from peaks that the team may not have droned out, such as trophy room, kitchen, or library. I'm not against spawn peeking at all. Oh my god, fucking spawn peekers! But it shouldn't be made easier by being forced into a bad spawn. Quite frankly, Siege's spawns are horrible. Not just the actual locations, but the rotation of locations. Oftentimes in casual, you'll spawn multiple times in the same place. Here's a clip of me predicting an obvious spawn on coastline and rushing the enemy.
10 seconds to insertion.
Let's get it.
5 seconds. Op 4 has yet to locate a bomb. You have entered an enemy-controlled area. Leave now. You have been Op 4, last operator standing.
Oh my god.
That's
so crazy. Yo, somebody gotta clip that shit. Yo, word, bro.
Yes, there are quite a few things the enemy team could have done to prevent this, such as placing a drone on terrace, but I intentionally rotated through the hatch and aquarium so we wouldn't be seen down there until the end of the prep phase. There's only so much you can do when you and all of your teammates spawn in the same crowded place and the people about to rush don't even get detected until someone is already dead. As annoying as all of this is, I would say that defenders have it harder, and the way objectives are chosen in casual is an even bigger problem than spawns. How many times have you chosen Mira on Oregon with the hope that you're defending basement only to get kitchen? How many times have you gone bandit on Consulate thinking that you're going to defend garage and you get anything but garage? Defenders don't get to see what site they're defending before choosing operators, which totally breaks team composition, as there are some operators who have little to no use on some objectives. The worst thing about this is that objective rotation in casual is sometimes non-existent, meaning that you could get the same site 2 or 3 times in a row, in which you potentially learn absolutely nothing since your operator isn't compatible with the site and their gadget cannot be used effectively. If one of the goals of casual is to teach players how to play the game, then it does a terrible job of it by not properly rotating objectives, which give people experience in their failure or success of a hold. If another of the goals of casual is also to prepare people for ranked, then it still does a terrible job, because sometimes you can be forced to defend the least viable site on a map various times, which you're under no obligation to pick in ranked unless you've already won the most viable sites, and you're likely to lose the least viable site anyways because it's the least viable for a reason. This brings me to my next point about casual: the maps. Casual currently has 6 more maps than ranked, and if you're wondering why they're not in ranked, it's because they were deemed unbalanced. So why do we have to play them in casual? Who knows? I'm all about having fun. I play casual for a reason, but it becomes increasingly difficult to enjoy maps that were not only bad when they shipped, but have become outdated and ignore not just current metas, but entirely new characters. House, for example, was made when the game still had 20 operators. It was made before the existence of Blackbeard, who basically breaks the map because of all the insane sightlines on it and the lack of proper flank routes. Plane was also made when the game had 20 operators, but long before the addition of Glaz's thermal scope, which makes free sniping that much easier on a horribly horizontal map.
Get her Glaz.
It's pretty hard to have fun when the game already starts you off on bad footing because of the poor design of the map and objectives. It's even harder to have fun when objectives don't cycle and you're forced to defend house living room twice in a row. Casual obviously isn't as competitive, nor should it be, as ranked, but it always feels terrible when you lost a game purely because of the bad site you were forced to defend when the enemy team could have gotten stronger objectives. There's more to this unbalance though, and that lies with the game modes. Siege has 3: Hostage, Secure Area, and Bomb. To put this simply, a map cannot be designed for various modes. These modes have different rules, and therefore different metas. For example, a character like Smoke is a powerhouse on Bomb, but he wouldn't be nearly as effective on Hostage. If a map is designed with one mode in mind, the rest will inevitably suffer and be unbalanced whenever you get the modes a map was not designed for. I'll go back to House and say that I believe this map was probably designed for Hostage, and that's why the bomb sites on it are so atrocious. House is an extreme example, but others can be found on better maps, such as Teller's Bathroom on Border, Blue Bar and Sunrise on Coastline, Tower on Oregon, and Kitchen Bakery on Cafe. Now, the reason I bring this up doesn't have so much to do with casual as it does a point I'd like to make about ranked, but before we talk about ranked, I'd like to talk about Siege's quality of life because it plays a big part in a lot of the problems I see day to day, in this game. For context, I started playing Siege after I felt like I had peaked in Titanfall 2 and was frustrated with the direction Overwatch was headed, and I think that these games and countless others gave me perspective on just how bad Siege's quality of life was. It has gotten better, it has undoubtedly gotten better and continues to with each season, but there are still many simple functions missing or designed poorly. At a glance, Siege's menu layout is like any other. You have options to jump into whichever mode you want, you can customize and inspect your operators, and you can take a look in the shop for something you may want to buy with either Renown, currency you can earn by playing, or R6 credits, which you can pay for. Where Siege fails first is the operator customization menus. For any given operator, you may have to go through 4 different submenus in order to customize a weapon's attachments, skins, or charms. The skins and charms have very little organization as they're not categorized by name, rarity, or date received, and there's no option to do such. Where this fails in particular is when you get a cool item in an alpha pack, and then it's just sort of lost in all the other stuff you have, and there's no option to auto-equip whatever you got, so you have to go through all these menus to do it. The menus also run suboptimally, dipping into the 40s for me in frame rate, which is understandable considering that the game is switching between what model you're seeing, and I can get why that would be taxing, but it's sluggish nonetheless. You can customize weapons pre-match in the loadout category, but they load so slow that it's not reliable at all. Siege is obviously a game that should be played with friends, but queuing with them is a chore. Thanks to Uplay's extended invite length, you can dish out invites whenever, and getting into a game isn't the issue as much as getting out of one is. If you want to leave a game with your party intact, you can only do so at the very end of a match. Leaving at any other time breaks the party and you have to reissue invites. It also takes less time to leave a match with a squad and re-queue than it does to re-queue using the find another match option, which makes you wait another 15 seconds for no reason at all. If you are solo queuing and want to form a team with the randoms in your match, Siege gives you that option. Sort of. You all have to choose it, and then you unceremoniously get dumped into the main menu with no one in your party. You'll meet the people you chose to stick with in the next match, but Siege gives you zero indication of this because it doesn't party any of you together. And of course, you have to choose this option every single time you want to keep playing with these people, otherwise the pseudo party will disband, and of course, you're given no notification of this. When you're in-game and queued with people, there's nothing showing it anywhere, and in fact, it doesn't even order the people correctly in the character selection screen. I have no clue how it orders people in this menu, because it isn't alphabetical, by rank, or by level. People you're queued with may not be next to you at all, and this sounds like such a trivial complaint, but the lack of visual tether of people who are queued together could fix so many issues, especially with the recent hacking epidemic. People you suspected of getting boosted could be exposed instantly if they were shown tethered to the hacker, and people who were toxic could be reported more accurately. The reason these are so important is because once the match is over, that's it. You can't report that person because they disappear into the ether. Sure, you could file a ticket with Ubisoft support and report them that way if you even remember their username or have proof of any of this, but it's ridiculous that Siege has no recent players viewing option. This goes both ways too. If you wanted to friend someone, you better do it during the match, otherwise you can just eat shit. Siege's chat feature is also in need of some serious work. There is no chat history like in other games, so messages that expire are gone for good. Should you be typing while playing? No. Should you have a mic to give callouts with instead of putting them in chat? Yes. But not being able to depend on a system that exists for communication is unacceptable. You also can't mute text for specific players, which would solve a lot of toxicity problems. I'm aware that a mute feature is coming sometime this year, but the fact that it's not in the game already is indicative of Siege's very slow quality of life adoption that seems too slow to keep up with the standards set by other games. A great example of this is the shop, which also features a number of inconsistencies in its presentation. Siege offers a variety of items in bundles, except you can't see them on the actual characters in the shop and have to go through all of the operator customization submenus to actually view them, and that's individually by operator. Other singular items can be seen in the shop and looked at, which is good, but items marked as digital content cannot. And these also can't even be seen in the operator customization options for God knows what reason. This brings me to a big problem with the shop. Things that you cannot actually see on the in-game models do not always appear as they are advertised. Everyone who bought that amethyst skin, you already know you got scammed, so I won't rub it in your faces. If at some point the items did really appear as advertised, they clearly don't now and should be updated. But actually, screw that. Just allow them to appear in-game and you wouldn't have to update your promotional images so urgently, since users would just be able to make up their minds based on the in-game look of it and not year-old rendered images. There's also more to this than borderline false advertising. As far as progression and cosmetic systems go, I like to be able to see what I'm fighting for. It's tangible, and therefore my effort for whatever it is increases. If I can't see the slightest representation of what it'll actually look like in action, then I don't care to get it. Siege does a really good job of this with some items that you can ogle at, but it just doesn't with others. And this works sometimes, right? Plasma Pink is a legend at this point. Black Ice has the same effect on some people. These skins have become myth, and the hunt for them in alpha packs is real, but this only works because they are no longer around in any capacity except alpha packs. They're not readily for sale for renown or R6 credits, and therefore their charm is greater and more incentivized than, say, the gemstone skins, which have representation, but inconsistent and locked representation in the shop. Now, before we get sweaty and ranked, I want to share an experience I had with R6 credits. Oh boy. So, I enjoy being a consumer, and Siege has proven itself time and time again to be a game that I believe is worth supporting. I've bought 2 Siege Season Passes, an Elite skin, Pro League skins, and some of the digital content. I felt comfortable buying these things because I knew the price up front. With that in mind, it may surprise you to find out that I'm not really a cosmetics guy. If something is available and I think it looks cool, I'll get it, but I sit on large amounts of renown because I really don't care that much. When the Sunsplash packs came recently, and I was actually able to see what the items looked like, I wanted to jump at buying them because there were no duplicates promised and everything looked worth having. Right before I bought the R6 credits, the cost of buying all the Sunsplash packs, 2700 R6 credits, was not a number that was purchasable. You could buy 2400 credits for $20 or 4200 for $35. This made me irritated that I'd have to spend $5 more than I wanted to. But then I noticed that if you get 2400 credits, you're given an additional 270. So with that, and the credits I already had, the final amount was 2694 credits. If I wanted all the packs with no strings attached, I would have had to spend $5 for 6 fucking credits. I'm sure some would say that I'm the asshole for supporting these practices, and you may not be wrong, but this is bullshit through and through. Those other things I bought because they were a fair trade. This isn't. It's designed entirely to get people to spend more money than is originally asked for. There was some talk of harmonizing credit prices or something like that, but that was ages ago. Additionally, Why 270 credits? Why not 300? I mean, I already know the answer, but could the game be less blatant? And you might be thinking that I'm salty because I didn't get what I wanted, but as it turns out, I was blessed by RNGesus, and I got everything I wanted from the packs I bought with some of the credits, and I still have 750 left over, but the entire experience left a bad taste in my mouth regardless, and I'll definitely be more cautious of buying exclusive packs in the future. Alright, let's talk about Ranked. An atmosphere like Ranked is not the ideal way of playing this game, that way being with and against people who are on legitimate teams, but it's the closest Siege offers, and it does a decent job of emulating that experience. Because Ranked is played with Elo on the line, you'll see a lot more cooperation and cohesion among teams. You'll still see some dumb shit, but that's not on the mode as much as it's on the individual players who are a constant and unavoidable. A lot of the stupidity of casual, like the inability to choose spawns and objectives, is corrected here, which clears up many of the balance issues associated with those spots. You can actually choose those two things before you choose operators, which is a quality of life improvement, as previously you couldn't. In my mind, the problems with Ranked begin with how Siege wants to portray competition. I talked about how Siege's game modes are all potentially unbalanced given map design, and in my opinion, the fact that you can rank up playing Secure Area and Hostage is a joke. These modes are not competitive in the slightest and feature the greatest amount of discrepancy between actual skill and dumb luck based on a variety of different things, such as hostage location and distance to extraction point and retrofitted area objectives. I have seen a prominent member of the Siege community, who shall not be named because they aren't the actual problem, get boosted to a rank they admit they probably don't belong in just by playing Hostage. Can boosting occur in Bomb? Of course, and it does. But Hostage makes it a lot easier when the objective itself is volatile and you're worrying more about not killing the hostage than you are about protecting them. Various operators in this game have gadgets that are meant to kill enemies, but the hostage is immune to none of them, meaning that your tools effectively become liabilities. Sounds very competitive to me. To be fair, if you don't want to play Hostage, no one is forcing you to, because you can turn it off in your matchmaking preferences. But that doesn't mean that everyone you get paired with will have the same sensibilities to the mode they're playing. What I mean to say is that, as it currently stands, I don't think Siege's matchmaking makes any distinction about how you got the rank you did. A gold is a gold, and a plat is a plat, no matter if one of those people plays a variety of every mode, and the other only plays Bomb. I have the massive hard-on for Bomb that I do because I believe it to be the most competitive mode due to it capitalizing so well on the mechanics of the game. You know what doesn't exist in Hostage or Secure Area? Post-plant transitions, and playing sites from below. Just these two things require so much communication and teamwork, and it's what I love about the game, but you just won't see them in the two other modes. Instead, something like Secure Area devolves into team deathmatch refrag fests until one person is left because the objective hardly matters. Kills are not the goal of Siege. Anyone can get kills, and anyone can kill anyone. The skill of Siege comes from so much more than just kills, and Bomb embodies that ideology almost perfectly. In the context of Siege, Secure Area and Hostage just aren't competitive to me. You wanna know what else isn't competitive? Night mode. Fuck night mode. Each map, with the exception of the newly released Villa, has a day mode and a night mode. Siege's lighting system is already absolutely terrible and prone to inconsistent play based on how dark a room is, but night mode cements this. If I had a nickel for every time I've been killed by someone I can't see, or alternatively, killed people that couldn't see me, I'd have enough money to buy my own esports team. People say that this brings variety to the game. I say, bullshit. You still attack the exact same way, you just get majorly screwed on the defense because you have to adapt a playstyle that does not include peeking windows. And all of this for what? Where's the balance here? doesn't exist. There's no trade-off for attackers. Every time it's night mode, I pick Blackbeard and he becomes even more broken than he already is. Night mode is so busted it should be taken out of casual as well as ranked, but it's in ranked and actually considered to be fine in a mode they want to call competitive. Inconsistent is the word of the day, and there's a few other things in the game that fester inconsistent play in ranked, like those goddamned metal bars and railings you can't shoot through. Luck has no place in a game like Siege, and these bars often serve more to give away your position than to secure a kill. Sound in Siege is vital. Here's some examples.
If you remain in this zone, you will be...
Nice walls.
Unfortunately, sound propagation in Siege ranges in quality, seemingly dependent on the size of the map. It's excellent on maps like Border, but absolutely god-awful on Theme Park or Villa, which are comparatively much bigger. See, the problems with Ranked aren't so much problems with Ranked as they are problems with the overall game. The issue is that Ranked exists with all these problems and still wants to be called competitive, which I personally believe it isn't. It's just more competitive than casual. Admittedly, many of the changes that need to come specifically to Ranked have already been announced.
2 plats mixed in with a bronze and a silvers. That's fucking dumbest shit I've ever seen.
But even if they appeared tomorrow, all of the problems I already mentioned would still exist. And so would the ones I haven't. I was prepared to come into this and say that Melee was working as intended, it was just inconsistent for whatever reason, but that's not true. Melee is broken.
No longer in your possession. Down to 1 friendly. Op 4 eliminated all friendlies.
I feel sorry for the Monty. How is...
Before I wrap this up, I'd like to talk about bugs and the Siege community. Never in my life have I ever seen a community just sweep blatantly busted things under the rug or attempt to excuse them as legitimate game mechanics. Jaeger cosplaying as Blackbeard, armies of invisible men, and 3-speed thick boys are perfectly fine in the eyes of some, and it's appalling. It doesn't stop at character-related issues though. Apparently stuff like this is just fine as well.
You gotta try to defuse, man.
Are you
Kidding? Are you kidding? Are you serious?
Hey. Fucking puppy.
The game will not get better if we turn a blind eye to these issues, or even worse, legitimize them. For example, I'm a PC player, but I know that mouse and keyboard on console is a big problem that needs far more attention than it currently receives. It doesn't help that there are scumbags out there that think that it doesn't look like anything to them. Be better, please. At the end of the day, Siege will endure, because it always has. It survived its launch, it survived the Wild West hacking days, it survived Operation Health, and it will survive everything I mentioned in this video, because at its core, Siege is incredible. And I wouldn't have spent all this time laying out what I find wrong with it if I didn't think it was. Better yet, I know that the people who are working on Siege care more about this game than I could ever imagine. But I feel like this video was necessary to make because sometimes Siege gets to you, and not in its good way. Defeated is the best word I can come up with to describe that feeling. But even in the worst of times with Siege, the prospect of enjoying it greatly outweighs anything else. And I think that's what keeps some of us coming back. For the heart-stopping clutches, for the elo, for the friendships, and for that one last match we're probably going to fucking lose. For Siege. A great game.
You serious?
Oh my god.
One friendly operator remaining.
This game is fucking dog shit.
No, don't do it! Why are you running?
Diffuser is online.
You guys ready for the boost? Let's get it.
You're powered up. Get in there.
I don't know what this is, but it's kind of hot.
Controlled area. Leave now. You have been spotted.
Did he just use his exothermic charge on a window?
I'm out.
That's glass. Yeah, don't be that. Oh, you're not yet. Oh.